Hello and welcome. My name is Piers Ridyard, CEO of RDX Works, a core developer of the decentralized finance protocol, Radix, a public ledger entirely focused on bringing DeFi to the mainstream. Today, we have another roundtable for you with Matthew, Russell, and Adam, and we're going to be talking about the just launched RadQuest. So, to kick us off, I'm going to let Matthew describe to you what RadQuest is all about and why we're so happy about it.
Yeah, this goes back more than 2 years actually. When we first started thinking about this, we were looking ahead towards like the launch of Babylon, and all these things that we knew were coming, and we're thinking about like we're going to need to have this way of bringing people into this ecosystem that we're building. It's like we were looking at all the other L1s out there, and it was just awful. Like, I mean, for two audiences, both for people that are already into crypto, and then certainly for people that aren't into crypto, it'd be like, welcome to X Network. Here's our tutorial page. And you just like read to pages of documents, and you fumble around trying to get the wallet set up and all this kind of stuff. And you end up on Telegram complaining that you can't do anything. So we're like, okay, if we're really talking about the mainstream, we need to do something which is at the level that we expect of really onboarding people into this. So we wanted something that was going to, bring people into the specifics about Radix, but also just the concept of Web3, even bringing people into like this notion of like, hey, now you can have web pages that can interact with real assets. And this means you have a wallet and you can do cool things. And then on top of that, showing off what you can do with the Radix way of doing those things with our wallet and so forth. So there's a long story about this, about sort of our brainstorming behind this and the approach we took about it. But basically we decided we wanted to build this onboarding experience where it's a combination of fun and learning. It's something where we want people to go like, look, Web3 is actually really cool and fun. We're going to not just tell you about it, you're going to hands-on experience it. You're going to come to a web page. You're going to find out very shortly that's already a DApp web page. You didn't even know you were on a DApp. And you're going to get the wallet really quickly. You're going to see how great transactions are in the wallet. And you're going to click through these sequence of quests doing various things. And at the end of it, it's going to be an enjoyable experience because it's possible to build good, enjoyable experiences with Radix. And you're going to walk away totally set up to participate in the Radix ecosystem. You're going to know how everything works, and we can kind of turn you loose. It's sort of like, it's like Mickey Mouse greeting you at the gates of the Magic Kingdom. It's like, here's this wonderful place. You've never been here before. I'm going to show you everything that's great about it, and then you can go explore it yourself.
I think there's some really interesting design decisions in the process of building this that are a little counterintuitive at first, which were, one of them was, it's not the fastest path that is important. It's the path that creates the greatest amount of understanding in what you're doing in the shortest period of time. So it's like, you're not going, I want to get you to the point that you can download a wallet as quickly as possible. I want you to get to the point where you can, because you can just show download wallet page. You can just then show ecosystem page, or you can show like links to the first ones you want people to try. But it's this idea that for both people in crypto already and for people outside of crypto, there is a different way of doing things in Radix. And for people outside of crypto who are maybe crypto curious on exchanges but haven't yet used Web3 directly because it just seems a little bit intimidating, there's that you want that feeling of that's easy. That was really easy, right? That felt simple.
And a feeling of understanding of how the thing works. Not at a technical level how it works, but sort of like, what does it mean to use Radix? And it really is important, like the two audiences we talked about. Like if you're already a crypto user, you've already fully onboarded this mentality of like how MetaMask works and how you connect to dApps. And you think about the wallet as being like, oh, okay, this is this thing that holds like a seed phrase, and it signs packages of data basically for smart contract calls, and you're used to all these things. And if you bring people into Radix and just be like, get the Radix wallet, they go, all right, cool. Like, where's your browser extension? And we have to go, well, hang on a second. That's a bad idea, actually. We do things differently here. So it really is about the shortest path to understanding. It's like, look, Radix has rethought how all these things work. So if you're used to crypto already, slow down a second. Radix is different than what you're used to. No question. Like, this is going to be unfamiliar to you. But once you understand a couple of the key concepts about Radix, you're going to go, oh wow, this is a way better wallet than I'm used to, and like, oh wow, I can log into web pages with this. It's not just about holding an account. Like there's all these cool things you can do you're not used to. And then for people that are coming from outside the crypto ecosystem, it's about introducing these key concepts of like, now a web page can connect to this thing, kind of a wallet, and it can make requests to that wallet, and it can do these things. It's like, it's hard to remember what it was like using the web for the first time, but if you were around back then, it was sort of like, so there's like this program where I can load websites and I can click on things. Like you had to build up this little mental model, and once it clicks, you're like, oh yeah, of course that's how it works, and you're used to this for the rest of your life. We got to bring that into Radix, be like, this is what Web3 is going to be like in the future. Let's introduce a few key concepts and then turn you loose.
And I think there's also a really interesting thing in human psychology around the positioning of how you give something to someone as well as the object itself, right? Like, this is maybe a silly story, but if I gave you $1, I've given you $1, right? But if I give you $1 and I say that this is my lucky dollar, and I've been holding this for 15 years, and I'm giving it to you because I want you to have it, then that object has something, has an emotional connection to it. I'm not necessarily saying that RadQuest is designed to create that emotional connection, but often when you get something and it's new, you don't always know why you should care about what the new thing is. And what RadQuest is setting out to do is not just give someone the things that they need to be able to do with Radix, but to understand why they should want to use those things and what the features of all those things are, but delivered in a way that you're not just saying, you can do this, you can do that, you can do the other. It's show not tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, what you're talking about was a lot of the work that we spent with Us2, the game company we work with on this, of really exploring how do you do something where it's like you're not just dumping information down someone's throat, but what we really want to do is give people the feeling that it was their own personal experience. It's sort of like, oh, I'm going to find my place in this. I can do things that matter to me. They're choices that I can make. And one of the ways that expressed itself was the reward system that came out of that work with us too, and the Radmorphs that you're going to see in there. We've got this really cool sort of NFT collection that we're launching with RadQuest, and a lot of that was about saying, look, as you're going through the experience, you're going to get some stuff, you're going to get some NFTs, of course, but this isn't just sort of like a cynical, like, all right, we're going to give you some stuff and you can go sell it on market or something like this. It's about, for one thing, experiencing the concepts. Like when you're getting rewards on this little game, they're going straight to your wallet and you really own them. You can leave RadQuest and you still own those things. If you're not used to Web3, this is an all new concept to you.
Right.
And then as you're interacting with these assets, you're going to find you can combine them and mix them and do some interesting things. And you can make choices as a user about sort of like, what kind of Radmorph do I want to create? And then you can interact with the smart contracts and kind of say like, hey, I want to combine these two gems with this energy card and make this thing that matters to me. And so when you leave RadQuest, you feel like, oh, there are things that I can do here. This isn't just something where like I'm just passively accepting stuff and things happen. It's like, cool, you now have abilities on the web that you didn't have before. There are choices you can make, which is a really important concept in Web3.
Yeah, and I think that really shines through in the RadQuest format. Like, and we will do another video, Matthew and I, about the story of the building of RadQuest, because it really is a great story. And it's funny how much work goes into something that appears so simple. And I think that's universally true of things that are intuitive to use, is there's a lot of work that goes into creating things that are intuitive. But, this is now out, and we're talking about this just from the point of view of the user. But Russell, like, how do you see this from the point of view of the developer and the developer ecosystem?
It's another part of that. We always say we're going to give builders everything they need. This is a big part of it. You know that some percentage of people who might use your app may not have done anything in crypto before at all, or may not have ever used Radix before. This is their first touch is going to be your application. Taking the burden away of getting the user past this initial friction point of, what do I need? Okay, I've got to go install a wallet. I have to go comprehend what it is to sign a transaction and to connect to a DApp and all that stuff. Having that taken care of for you, not just in a minimal way, but in a good way that you'll be happy to recommend, is really, really important. It's it's a not talked about user friction point a lot,
Right.
particularly because in the DeFi space, it's people that are chasing a financial gain will put up with a lot more friction to get to what they see as an opportunity than somebody who's not chasing a financial gain.
Right.
And so it's like the existing crypto onboarding experience, the world has gotten away with it because people are there overwhelmingly because, oh, I think I can make some money here, so I'll put up with this very difficult learning curve and confusion, all this sort of thing. This is a way for developers to go, no, my application is a fun and engaging application to use, and it's not intimidating to get on board with these other necessary understandings you have of what is a DLT, what is a network, what does it mean to sign a transaction, what do I own, that sort of stuff. Right. This takes care of it for them. And it also is for somebody who's even thinking about getting involved, it's an easy way for them to say to anyone, go check this out. This is going to get you on board with what Web3 is. You can come back after you've understood a bit more. We can have our next conversation. That sort of thing.
I think it's really interesting because it actually follows into a lot of the early core conversations that we had that dictated a lot of our product directions. You know, when I talked about this, you know, maybe 4 years ago, this is some of the main things that I would talk about is like when we spoke to DeFi developers and DeFi projects specifically, the ones that were growing quickly, the number one problem that they were coming across wasn't scalability, right? You know, your Aves of the world, your Compounds of the world, your Uniswaps of the world. The number one problem wasn't actually scalability. People were doing pretty, like, the customers that mattered to them were doing large transactions and still are, right? The majority of transactions across Uniswap are over like $10,000, and there are many that are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars mark. And, you know, Aave's got billions of dollars under management. So they weren't going, the network isn't scalable, the fees are a problem right now. They were going, my biggest problems are I can't hire enough developers. That's why we built Scripto. And the second problem that they'd often talk about is bounce rate, right? Mm. You know, bounce rate of 95% plus of a interested lead coming to a website, clicking through, trying to get into the product, and then not being able to. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when we talked about everything that developers need internally, one of the big things you need is like no brakes on your growth. If crypto space is going to expand, you have to bring in new people at a certain stage. Every single project has gone beyond the boundaries of its own ecosystem and then of the crypto space, and its next available market is those who have never used public ledgers directly before. And if we're going to get the crypto space from, you know, a couple of million, a few million users directly in DeFi and Web3 to a few billion, that problem is the biggest problem in the crypto space outside of, you know, all of the other stuff that is internal, like lack of security, poor user experience, like unreliable networks, all of that stuff. Fine, that's accepted. But really, like, if you solve all of those things, your next biggest problem is your problem that is going to put the brakes on your growth. And that's going to be being able to onboard new users, net new, that have never used Web3 and DeFi directly before, have never used non-custodial. And the exchanges have got, so I heard the number recently, it's like over 100 million users on exchanges and only like 2 or 3 million users on Web3 and DeFi.
Right.
So, you know, talking about this, I encourage every developer who's building on Radix or considering building on Radix to not just think about what your next step is going to be, like what's the next best place for me to build because of the available market on that network. Am I going to build on Ethereum, or am I going to build on Solana or whatever because there's a good market there? But don't temper your ambitions. You want to be not the biggest app on Ethereum or the biggest app on Solana. You want to be the biggest app of that type in the world. How do you get to that? You need to be able to solve user onboarding. That's really your biggest problem. Post bootstrapping.
And in a way, you don't want to have to solve that problem yourself. I mean, imagine if like every web page had to be like, okay, we're going to like we're going to create our own experience so that people understand how to use a web browser. Like you just want users to understand how to use a web browser before they get to your thing.
Yep.
So we're like, we know we're in the early stages. We know Web3 is super new to most people. So it's like, all right, we're taking on the schlep to put something out here and go, look, we're going to bring people into this. We're going to show them how it works. And then they can just get on with using your app and doing the cool stuff that you want to build.
So what does that mean for what tools are we actually releasing for now RadQuest is out? What are we planning around tools that we'll be releasing in the near future, Ross?
And related to user onboarding?
Yeah, no, related to RadQuest. We're going to be open sourcing RadQuest, right?
Yeah. At time of release, RadQuest is not open source. That is the intent to do so. But and maybe Matt should speak to some of these. The intent is always with these types of applications that we release, as we did with the Gumball Club before, which was like a very small early idea of like, here's some core Radix network concepts that will at least be understandable to someone who's already in crypto. Is to then have that as you can look at how it was implemented, and it's basically a reference design for how to do a lot of these different types of different user interactions. So tooling wise, it's not about, there's a whole flood of libraries or SDKs or something that are going to come out. It's more about showing, here's an example, here's a reference you can use and take the parts of it that are relevant to your system. And then as far as the, Matt, you want to talk a little bit about the wallet specifically on the idea of, you can do a throw and then come back to your application.
Right. Yeah. In terms of like the actual onboarding flow to your application, there's a couple things we're doing. One of them is that your application, if you're building an application where you think, I'm going to have a bunch of users coming in that are probably pretty fresh, at least to Radix, maybe to Web3, you can link to RadQuest. And we've provided a URL parameter you can put in there. So we have our cool little DApp definition system that kind of defines what your DApp is. If you pass a URL parameter to RadQuest and say, hey, this link is coming from this DApp, then RadQuest will keep track of that for that user. And when the user gets the Radix wallet for the first time, we're going to pass all this through so that when they install the wallet and they launch it for the first time, they're going to get a little banner right on the home screen of the wallet that goes, hey, you now got the wallet set up. Good deal. Now you can go back to the DApp that sent you here. So it kind of closes the loop on some of your onboarding stuff. That's one thing that we're doing. It's a very simple thing, but I think this is something that will just make the user experience a little bit nicer for them, for your users. And then the other thing I think at least for some applications, depending on what you're doing, is the asset system that's coming out of RadQuest itself, the RadMorphs and RadGems and all these kind of NFT things that we're doing. We're going to be putting out all the information, kind of the technical information about those assets. All those assets are fully decentralized. We really are kind of launching this as a little NFT launch. So it's like the assets are all in Arweave. All the metadata is kind of set and decentralized. So if you want to, you're fully free to build your own programs around those assets. So, for example, one of the assets isn't even a reward. The users are getting this little RadQuest Heroes badge when they go through here. And the Heroes badge gets presented to RadQuest every time you do something. Well, the Heroes badge is kind of going to be like stamped with the user's progress. So you can kind of imagine, like, if you imagine someone like walking around Disneyland, they've got this little visitor card, and every time they get on a ride, they get a little stamp. And then afterward you leave, someone else can look at your little card and go, oh, wow, I can see you've ridden 60% of the rides at Disneyland. You know what you're doing. And so you can, remarket to them or whatever. So same thing. If you can look at the RadQuest Hero badge in the user's account and go, I can see that you know how to do staking, you know how to use DEXs because you've gone through those tutorials on RadQuest, and then you can maybe tailor the experience on your application. So that's one thing. And then the assets themselves, I think, are just kind of cool. Like if you just want to kind of, do something where it's like, hey, if you got an extremely high quality RadMorph on RadQuest, then maybe you can unlock something on some other application. All those interactions between different applications to me is one of the coolest things about Web3. And when you think about Web3 gaming, so like, I'm really excited to see what our ecosystem just builds around these assets that are going to be coming out of the thing. And we've taken those assets pretty seriously. I mean, we've done a bunch of math on like the rarity rates and how we're spinning these things out here. So it's kind of like a real gaming asset system that I totally expect other people are going to do cool stuff with.
I like this idea, like RadMorph gated communities where
right.
Only those with the ultra rare, Actually, I can't reveal like the ultra rares, but the ultra rares, if you've got an ultra rare, you're only allowed in this group if you've got an ultra rare. And so, like, just in general, Russell, you're basically saying, look, this is evergreen infrastructure. This isn't like a one-time thing. We didn't just build it.
We think it's really cool. Of course, we're going to promote it and say, hey, come in and try RadQuest and all that. But the right way to think of it as this is the evergreen user onboarding experience. And it is a completely modular system where if there's anything where there's a reason to create, users need to learn about a new concept, you can add new quests for that. If we're going to encourage users for use of a certain application, a certain activity, this provides the framework to do so ad hoc, on demand, quickly as needed. And that this is always there for you as a developer if you're building any application. That RadQuest is always going to be kept to as this is the default place to recommend anyone goes to get started on. Is throw them over to RadQuest, they'll get up the learning curve and then be conversant with how to do business on RadQuest and how to use your app.
And so pass back to you as well. I think that's really important and critical. Yep. Yeah.
It's a natural thing to bake into if you are on the business side thinking of things, especially as a developer, to say, how I'm constructing my funnel, I can predict that at a certain point, if a user is new to me, that I might kick them over to RadQuest and expect that they're going to come back. And these are discrete steps in the process that I'm tracking. And the assertion we're making is that this will be very beneficial to that problem you just described of this. I have a very engaged user who I have a warm lead, someone's interested in using my app, but they're bouncing off. They're not getting to that first interaction. This should dramatically reduce that kicking people out of funnel at that step because they no longer have this intimidating cliff of, I landed here, I'm interested in doing stuff, but there's this crypto thing and it's terrifying to me. We now have a nice gradual hill where you're going to be learning without even realizing it, maybe because you're having some fun playing around at this thing that really feels like, we haven't emphasized it, but people are used to doing game apps on their phone.
Right.
And for many people, this goes way back to when we were doing user testing on some of the early Radix wallet concepts. When we would get in front of people who weren't crypto users, they didn't even comprehend they were using DLT because it just felt like a normal application to them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so that's exactly what you want. That the network things we want to explain to you. These are the parts where you're going to a public network, and these are the things that are you're holding this. You own this yourself. They don't have a database that's showing, oh, I own these following Radmorphs. You own them. It's in your account, but you have brought it to this website. Right. That's the part that even with the Radix wallet out, there's no magic leap of understanding to a non-crypto person. That sort of thing. Yeah. This closes, it's a complete story now where people will understand, oh, I get it. So I have some stuff. The website has the ability that I can connect my wallet. It can see the stuff I've told it about, but it's still my stuff. And I can still, when I'm not connected to the website, I'm in my wallet and I can still see my stuff because of the way the Radix wallet is written to not have it be like you have elsewhere where, what's this NFT I own? I got to go connect to that application's website because it knows how to interpret the data on that sort of thing.
Right. Okay, so we have a super intuitive learning journey, user onboarding experience, and a piece of evergreen infrastructure for both people to build on top of and to use as part of their user journey. Adam, what are you excited about with RadQuest, and what do you see now being possible? How's this relates to sort of the marketing activities that we've been doing as well?
So at a high level, the thing I am most excited about is that we have a new gold standard of how to introduce someone to Radix. Mm. So up until RadQuest, we basically had, you're interested in Radix. You want to know more about Radix? Go and watch RadFi. Mm. Which, again, RadFi was a fantastic bit of content, but it's still an hour-long keynote speech, which is telling you why you should 20, be really excited.
It's an hour and 20.
Hour 20? Yeah. Either way, my point being, people like shorter content. But the bigger thing is it just tells you why you should like Radix. And the big difference is with RadQuest, you can now sit there and go, well, just go and use RadQuest. See it for yourself. Actually go and see it on your own device, in your own hand, on your own network, everything else. see how these things work. And that works fantastically, as we've said, for both enthusiasts and also just people who are kind of aware of crypto but haven't really embraced Web3 yet. So that's not only good for us, that is good for everyone in the community, projects, as we said, because a key goal of this for me is that you should be able to go up to literally anyone who can use a smartphone or the internet and go like, hey, give RadQuest a go. You'll understand why I'm excited about Radix. You'll understand why Web3 is this cool thing. And it will, again, without realizing, teach you those key concepts and these key things you can do, so that then you're left going, well, where should I go now? And that naturally leads people out into the ecosystem to go and try dApps and explore themselves. At a much more kind of internal level, I'm really excited about RadQuest because we can market much more efficiently when you have these conversion points that are part of the funnel. So it's quite in depth, kind of like marketing analytics and stuff like that. But one of the big advantages people like
Alex,
exchanges have.
Adam has 100% been in his happy space with this. This is deep Adam job satisfaction. This whole thing.
Nice spreadsheets to show you where conversions are. But yeah, the big thing that exchanges have in the space over, say, most projects is that they get conversion data. They can clearly see, oh, this person got hit, this person did these things. Now, in something like an L1, you don't want to pack that information into, say, the wallet, because you don't want to pass back all that information. But then you can't tie up Web 2 to Web 3 activity. So if we go and run something with like an influencer campaign or go to an event and we're like, hey, check out Radix, go and get the wallet. Best we could do before is things like, hey, sign up for our email list or something like that. But that's not a really great conversion. Right. If we instead go, hey, you've gone to RadQuest, and we can see that person's completed all of the quests to it, we can go, well, I know that person has now seen everything Radix has to offer. They've absorbed it. We know that we've got a repeatable onboarding flow here that we can point people towards and be relatively confident that people we put in the top, when they come out the bottom, have at least seen what we've got to offer in the USPs of the network.
And
another thing that I know you've been excited about, Adam, was the fact that we launched mobile dApp support in the wallet about a month ago, and RadQuest now gives us the perfect engine to really promote that, right?
100%. And this is the thing which is, it was frustrating having, in many ways, Radix Connect for mobile out and not pushing it really hard. But we intentionally saved it for this point of being like, well, we need that to make RadQuest make sense, because the vast majority of users are going to see most things on their phone. Most people use their phones most of the time as their first touch of content. So having that mobile first experience was really important. And being able to showcase that in such a good way through RadQuest just gives it that really polished experience that maybe crypto enthusiast people can go and see Radix Connect for mobile and instantly be like, oh, that makes sense. But with RadQuest, you can actually go, well, this is why it makes sense. This is why you would want this. Mm-hmm. And the final bit, which I think is really exciting about it, is it's really demonstrating the approach of dApps being the main interaction point rather than the wallet. Mm-hmm. So this is something which we've pushed a lot. And Matt, I'm sure you'll want to speak more on this, but I think it is a much more intuitive experience as you go through RadQuest of understanding why these are separated. RadQuest isn't built into the wallet. This isn't the wallet trying to get you to do these things. The wallet remains impartial. It's my wallet is working with the dApp. And these things are owned in my wallet, but I'm interacting with that dApp, so that then when you go into the wider ecosystem and go into a DEX or a lending protocol or a game or something like that, you get that same pattern that sticks very, very well with people when they see it in practice.
I think that's actually a really interesting way. Like, it's subtle, but my wallet is working with this dApp rather than this dApp is working with my wallet. Like, I think most formulations we have of crypto wallets, especially crypto wallets who are trying to build a business model around the wallet, they want to own the entire user flow. And so that's often pushing them towards building lots of stuff into the wallet. We want this to be the little walled garden that you sit inside of. And as a result of you sitting inside of this little walled garden, we can extract fees for all of the things that you do inside of here, or we can extract attention for this. Whereas most people are like, no, I have a universe of dApps, of applications, of apps that I have on my phone, of websites that I want to go on the computer. And I don't automatically go, I'm going to open my wallet as the first place I go to want to go and do things. You go, I want to go to OssySwap. Okay, OssySwap.com. Now I need to connect my wallet. I'm not going, I need to open my wallet to go to OssySwap.com. And actually, like, this matches the majority of user behavior. The majority of user time on a desktop is spent on a browser. The majority of user time on the mobile is spent on a few core applications. And then you exit those applications to be able to do something. And this is all about going, the wallet is an enabler of user action rather than the place in which user action commences. And when you go into the Web3 world, that becomes actually really, really important as Web3 expands and becomes multi-application, multi-platform, and becomes more and more ingrained into everything that we do within Web2.
Yeah, this is kind of a thing that we believe very deeply about with the future of Web3, that like this path of like, well, we want to control the user experience. We want them to go through the wallet, and kind of I think it's kind of it's one of those things that seems obvious on the surface, but is actually really wrong, which is that the only way you can deliver a really good user experience is to control the user experience through the wallet, where it's like the user experience of the web isn't broken. That isn't going to change in Web3. We need to work within that model of I'm using web pages, I'm using my chosen web browser. We just need to add this extra layer of Web3 functionality onto it. And I think trying to like the crypto ecosystem, trying to reverse that of like you're going through the wallet leads in some really bad directions of just application builders going like, well, I guess that means I need to build like a white labeled wallet for my own application. And then this it starts fragmenting the ecosystem. Right. And now people have 4 different wallets and like they don't really know where their assets are. You're basically just heading back to the siloed world that we're trying to get rid of with Web 2. You really want to have this. It is
when you go to a restaurant or something and it's like, oh, install our app to see the menu or to get our loyalty points. Like, of course, I'm not going to go install your application to get loyalty points for the sandwich shop. Right. Why would you think it's any different here?
Right.
Exactly. And it's being tolerated because people are going, I'm chasing a financial opportunity, so I will put up with it. But because you have sort of broken them to putting up with it does not mean that's the right way to do things. And it's time to stop.
And it's really interesting with exactly that use case of restaurants and anything that wants to give you something digital that's the equivalent of a coupon or equivalent of something you just need to hold somewhere. And there's no way of delivering that in Web 2 without being like, you have to install this piece of software or you have to sign up to this thing. Whereas as soon as you have a wallet that can connect to anything that is impartial, that is not associated with any given particular service, then I just put it into that wallet. Easy.
Right. Now your application just goes, here's your coupon. I don't have to care. I don't have to build a whole system to manage your coupons. I just say, here's your coupon. Oh, cool. I'll put it in my wallet. Of course, that's what a wallet is for. So one of the nice things about Radix is that we don't just explain that philosophy to people. We show them. So like as you're going through RadQuest, you're constantly going to be kind of going back and forth between the RadQuest webpage and the wallet and experiencing this over and over again. It's like our little guide, Jetty, our little otter, is going to go like, hey, I'm about to give you something. Cool. Now you're going to go over to your wallet and you're going to see like, oh, this thing I saw on the webpage, I see it in my wallet. And oh, now I can look at it in my wallet. Now Jetty goes, cool, send it back to me. Oh, okay, I can do that. So you start experiencing this interplay between a web page and your own wallet. And what we're hoping this does is build up this understanding of this is what Web3 should feel like in general. And Radix has really put the thought into what that experience should be. It's a little bit different than what you're used to, but it's quite powerful.
So obviously this sort of goes into our overall strategy that we've been following with Radix over the years and since the launch of Babylon as well. Like right when Babylon launched or shortly after, I talked about the 3 phases of Babylon, and we very much now through phase 1, which is sort of the initial ecosystem, getting sure that we're getting community testing and TVL BIS building and critical fixes and all this kind of stuff. And now we're into the next phase here, and this next phase is about getting more users into the Radix ecosystem and getting more confident users of Web3 to want to lean in to using the stuff that's there. We've also got like a bunch of really cool applications coming down the line that I'm sure these users that are coming in through RadQuest are going to be really enthusiastic about as well. Things like Surge.trade, things like Trove, and their Pro Tools trading platform, and other applications that are improving and expanding their universe of available things. And it's just about creating this great experience of. I think of it as like when you're playing a computer game and you have the little tutorial world. They don't tell you how to run and jump and stuff like that so much as show you how to do it, and you have your own little tutorial building and you go around it, and then you get to go out into the wide world. And that's what RadQuest is all about: show, not tell.
One of the really good analogies that I think of for this is anyone who's got one of the newer Oculus headsets or Quest headsets, is that the only app that comes pre-installed on that is like understanding this VR world. And Meta do a really good job of those. It's like, this is how you grab things, this is how you can move around, this is like how it maps through. It shows you all of those things, which then means that anyone else who wants to go and create an application for VR can kind of assume that as long as you're following those main patterns, it's like, okay, people are going to get the hang of this. They know how to pick something up. You've got those common standards. And I think that is really underutilized in Web3 at the moment. And especially people who aren't in Web3. Is, well, how do I do that? But once you get the hang of it, it just becomes second nature to you.
Yeah. So, in conclusion to this, thank you very much, everyone, Matthew, Russell, Adam. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't already done it, go to radquest.io and get started.
And then tell 3 friends.
Exactly. Get those. You
can get a referral code. You can tell your friends, and you can get some. Get some extra D for it.
Yeah, the referral quests have got some very. Maybe that's the route to get to ultra rares. Maybe. So have fun, and we look forward to seeing your feedback as to how it was.